Okay, this is going to be a real short video, just explaining what this feature here, ignore non-existent chord note, means, how this thing works. And actually, it's very simple. So I've created a phrase here in the phrase editor with a quarter note on 1, which is the root of the chord, in this case C major 7th. The next quarter note on B2 is on number 2, which is the third of the chord, that's E. The next note is G, that's the 5th, and that's mapped to number 3, is mapped to the 5th. And then it's a C major 7th chord, so the 7th of that C major 7th is a B, and you can see here we've got a note number 4, so it's mapped to the 7th, so therefore we've got the number 4 here. Okay? All right. Now, if I right now I do not have ignore non-existing chord note checked off. Okay, this is a little radio button. Blue is on. That's off. So if I hit apply changes to phrase and composition, what we see here is the notes C, E, G, and then C. And the reason why we see the C is because, instead of B, I should say, is because there is no 4 in a triad. There's not a 4th note. So what Rapid Composer does by default is it maps the number 4 note to the next note being the C, the next note up, which would be C of 5, an octave higher. Now, if we change this chord to a C major 7th in the master track, now we can see that the top note is B, it's not C. Okay? But let's just go back to making it just a simple C major triad, and we get this 4th note. And now you may want that. Okay, you may want that. But if you don't, now let's go back to the phrase editor. We have the same notes, the 1, the 2, the 3, 4, which correspond to C, E, G, B. If I select this ignore non-existing chord note, now I'm not going to see anything change in the phrase editor, right? But I'm going to hit apply changes to phrase and composition, and now what I see we have in the master track the triad. We no longer have the 4th note. Okay, it's absent. It's been taken out. That's because we check this box, ignore non-existing chord note. Okay, so the 4 in a C major triad, the 7th doesn't exist. Only the root, 3rd, and 5th. So on this last beat, where prior to checking that little radio box, radio button, we had a B, we ignored the 4, and we just don't put anything. Okay, so that's really all there is to it. Okay, now if I go back and change this thing back to a 7th chord, in this case I'll put C minor 7th, then we get 4 notes, because there is a 4th, there is a 7th tone in the C minor 7th chord. So now we have a B flat. Okay, so that's how that works. It's just really as simple as that. But I thought it was important just to point that out, so there's no confusion. And certainly there'll be times when you have a triad in the master track, and you don't want to map the 7th note up to another root an octave higher. And so in those cases, you just click on this ignore non-existent chord tone, and that's what it's going to do. Now obviously there are other examples with 9th and 11th and 13th, you know, upper extensions, and I suppose this can get complicated, or even things like a C6 chord, right, which would be C, E, G, A. In fact, let's just try that let's try that. So we'll make this a 6 chord. Now there's no notice that there's no number given for the 6th degree, just the 1st, the 3rd, the 5th, the 7th, but not for the 6th. So the 6th is just one scale step up from the 5th. So that's the way we would map that, is 3 plus 1, right? Scale step. Okay. Wait a minute. We've got something. Why does it say 3, 1 plus 1? So we've got the 3. Oh yeah, I've got to take off this semitone. Okay. All right, there we go. So now we've got 3 plus 1 is A. That's the 6th of a C6 chord. So a major 6. There we go. 3 plus 1. Okay. So if we hit the ignore non-existent chord note, hit apply changes to phrase and composition, and we're going to change this chord to a C6. Okay, it maps just as we'd expect, C, E, G, A. Now what happens if we just change this to a simple triad, just a 1 chord? Okay, what Rapid Composer has done, as we still have the A, so it did not map that 6th note up to the root, the C. It kept the A at the A. And that's because, if you think about it, this note is not mapped to like a particular chord degree. It's referenced. This A, which is the 6, is referenced to the 5th. Okay, so that's why we get the A. Now, if we go back to the phrase editor and we select ignore non-existent chord note, and we change okay, now I see. So I was expecting the A to disappear, because the A is not in C major, right? It's just C, E, G. And I was expecting the A, because it's not a chord note, not to appear. Like the 7th did not appear, but the A is still there, and I'm wondering, well, why is that? And I can see why that is, because the A is, again, I'm repeating, is mapped to the 5th. It's not. See, these notes here, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, these are mapped to the third, like the root, the 3rd, the 5th, the 7th, the 9th, the 11th, and the 13th. Those are each have their own numbers up here in the note, right? We can see that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, they have their own numbers. But with an A, it doesn't have a particular number, a designated number, a mapping number. And all we're doing is we're really just selecting the 5th and adding a scale tone. So it's not a chord note per se in the mapping scheme. Okay? I hope that's not too confusing, but I think you get the general idea. The important takeaway here is that between triads and seventh chords, if you select this ignore non-existent chord note and the phrase contains a seventh, which in Rapid Composer's case is a 4 mapped to a 4, then it will eliminate. You can eliminate the seventh chord in that particular phrase under the master track if it's just a triad. Okay, it's really harder to explain than to experiment with, but I think you pretty much got the general idea here. Okay, all right, thanks. See you in the next video.